Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're over here in my third car garage, and this side of the garage doesn't have any outlets or power or anything useful for me. So what we're gonna do today is run the sub panel to this side of the garage so I can get some more outlets and some more power on this side of the garage. So stay tuned. So before we get started, we're gonna have to get the supplies and everything that we need to do this project. So to start off, I got this $23 panel from Lowe's. It's got 8 positions for regular breakers, up to 16 if you do the split breakers. With this thing, you need to get the ground bus. So this ground bus was like another $5 right here that I already installed. Make sure that your thing comes with screws and everything here. This is probably the most affordable thing that you're gonna get other than the breakers. So next, you're gonna need the breakers, which I'm gonna run 2 120 circuits, one at a 20 amp, and then one at a 15 amp probably to do the light. So I'm gonna run a 20 amp 240 volt in case I have to connect a compressor or any other high voltage item. I know this is kind of small for a compressor, but I'm kind of limited based on the source I have on this side of the room because of the circuit I'm gonna be repurposing for this panel. And of course, you're gonna need the Romex. So I got the 12.2, the 14.2 Romex for the 20 amp and the 15 amp circuit. Then I got a 12.3 Armor Flex. This one was like half the price of Romex. I just got Armor Flex instead. And then I got some of this, which came with like 10 gauge wire. This is a liquid tight, and I need that for my concrete block wall because you need to run that from the ceiling down to the block and into the block, so you have to use some liquid tight for that, like to match everything in my garage right now. In addition to these other wiring supplies, I needed to get this crimper right here, which is a 3 position. The reason why I need to do that is I need to put in the 10 gauge wire that I'm gonna tap from the building. Then I have to step it up to one of these bigger 4 gauge wires that fits into the lugs over here. So I needed to get this bagged terminal or something. These things were like 12 bucks each, which is freaking crazy because 2 of these cost more than the breaker box or the panel over here. And then just some bushings, some additional wire that I needed. That was only 3 wires, and I needed a 4th wire to complete the circuit on that I'm going to be tapping later. And then of course this little section of 4 gauge wire right here. This is basically all you need, and the rest of it is going to be just outlets and boxes and other things like that. So I got lucky and found this circuit on this side of the wall, which is right on the back side of this is the garage. So what we have is a 30 amp circuit, which is a 10 gauge wire that goes into here, and it serves my Environmental 1 septic grinder system. This is a periodic septic grinder that has a 1 horsepower motor, and they split the 30 amp circuit into a 15 amp 240 for the pump and a 15 amp 120 for the circuitry and all this stuff going on in here. This thing doesn't need 30 amps. I'm gonna pull the 30 amp over here and split it and go ahead and connect it just the way it is now, but I'm gonna split the other end and use that 30 amp on the inside. Since all this stuff's gonna be pretty much non-continuous, I should be good with the 30 amp drop coming from the main. And since we have breakers everywhere on here, on both sides, we should be good with overcurrent protection also. To get started, you can see where the circuit comes through the CMU wall. It drops from the ceiling into the wall right there, and it just runs behind the wall right behind here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill a 3-inch or a 2.5 inch hole right here where the panel is gonna be. And that's where I'm gonna pull that wire from the other side back over here into the panel. And once I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and drill my own holes in the back of the panel and get that panel mounted right here. So we went ahead and drilled that 2.5 inch or 3 inch hole. I forgot what size this was. That's in a perfect spot. You can see that the wire is inside there. And then I went ahead and put the anchors for the panel. So now it's hung in there just temporarily so I can see where everything's at. You can see over here I marked my 2-gang box where I'm gonna put my outlets for this spot right here. I'm gonna fish the wire over behind the CMU across here. I saw a little bit of hole inside, but I could drill a hole with a long drill bit in there and just fish the wire over. And then I have to drill my own holes through here with some grommets. What I'm gonna do to run the rest of the circuit over to where my compressor's at over there is I'm just gonna fish the wire on this side parallel to that up to the ceiling, and then I'm gonna go over on this side where the outlet's gonna be, and then on this side I'll just keep the power coming in and whatever else I can do above. Man, those were the 2 hardest freaking holes I've ever drilled in a piece of metal. This metal is freaking pretty damn thick. and strong, and it's galvanized, that it killed that bit. Each one of these grommets I'm using is good for at least 14 twos or down to 10 twos. We can basically run 2 of our circuits through one of these grommets, and that's 4 total circuits I could get through here.
Break it down.
Alright, took a while to get that hole cut perfect, but I was able to drill it out with a hole, then grind the lines, and then get a chisel in there just to make it perfect. This baby fits in there. I already test fitted it, but I'm about to run the wires, get everything in there before I set it final, and then put some spray foam around there just to seal it in once it's finalized. Other than that, I need to get all the wiring done on the outside, pulling that through in the inside, and then going ahead and just making all the connections and everything, and then also cutting the outlet over there by my compressor too. So I'll do that off camera and get all the wires run over to here, and then we'll make the connections next. Also, for the mounting of this box, a lot of jurisdictions require, or they don't require, but the inspectors prefer you have basically a particle board against the CMU wall. Down here in Florida, I don't think we have any of that in our code or any requirements, because I've seen surface mount boxes mounted straight to CMU blocks. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. Since this is indoors, I don't have to worry about it being weather tight or moisture or anything. But if you were worried about that, you could mount this to a piece of plywood board, or you just seal around here with caulk once you're done, just to make sure you have a nice seal like you do on the outside. Alright, so over here, my existing single gang, I ended up converting it to a dual gang because I'm going to be controlling the lights on this side of the garage with one switch over here, and then the main part of the garage I'm going to keep on the other switch on that side. That way I can come in through this door and turn on the garage lights instead of being pitch black. Even though I'm on smart things and I just have the door automatically turn on the light, now I can actually control it and turn it on and off from here. And then over here, I decided to cut a second double gang. So I'm gonna end up putting a 120 volt GFI right here with a secondary plug, so I can have 4 plugs right there. So now that we're complete with here, I'm gonna end up foaming all around here, getting this in, and then buttoning this up. Also, as part of my cutting holes, I'm gonna end up cutting this hole and then adding some 220 over here. I'm gonna end up cutting another outlet over here also. I'll do all this off camera. You don't need to see that. You've seen enough of me cutting holes in the wall. So we just finish this up and then we'll go on to the next step. So for CMU walls, this top brick between the eave and the house is always filled solid with concrete. So what you have to do to fish wire down to behind the wall is you actually have to drill past that. So I drilled right here below that line, and you can see the concrete fill right there. It matches what they did originally when they built the house by the electricians. So you'll always notice this in the garage, exposed conduit like this. Like on the side here for the carriage lights, they have the same setup. So what I did was copy that same setup so I could run my wire back up through here. So I'm gonna just drill a hole here. And they didn't really do a good job of sealing around all the edges of my house. So one day I might re-caulk all that just to keep those things clean and sealed up. So this is how it looks above the ceiling where it goes up the CMU wall. You can see that piece of liquid tight conduit coming up, and that's where the wires come in and out, and you can see the spray foam that we use. I'm outside on that sewer box I have, so I took it off the wall. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this wire through and then fish my other wire back. We got all the wires pulled through, so it's time to terminate it into the box right here. I've got all my bushings in, ready to pull these through. I got my box over here all set up so I can put the outlets there. So once I make all the connections in here, we go ahead, connect the power, turn on the breaker at the main panel, and power this baby up. This bundle here is coming from the main panel. It's a 30 amp circuit over there, so the breaker is already here in the garage, so you don't need another breaker here. So over here is the neutral bar. You get the white wire over here. Here's the ground bus, so you put the bare copper wire over there. This thing is kind of oxidated from being used the outside, but we're gonna be able to put that onto there directly. And then the black and the red end up going into the two terminals up here. So these terminals over here accept a number 4 down to a number 0, I believe. So we can't just plug this thing straight into there. You have to use those jacketed crimps to crimp this wire onto a bigger wire so you go into these lugs. And these lugs right now have some anti-seize or anti-oxidation because they're aluminum, and we're connecting them to copper wires. Anytime you connect copper onto aluminum, you have to put that anti-oxidation cream or grease on there so that way it doesn't react. Since the circuit we hijacked used to serve the unit out there, I had to run these new wires out there and terminate out there. I'm gonna go ahead and connect these straight to that jacketed joint. So it's gonna be fused back at the main panel, plus it's gonna be fused outside once it gets into that control panel. So we're able to use that jacketed crimp. So here's my two little sections of number 4 wire. I cut it to maybe like 8 inches worth, which is about the distance from the lug up to there. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a razor to splice these things deep enough and then just start connecting them up. All right, there we have it. Everything terminated to the breakers. I got everything on these bagged connectors. Everything looks pretty good. I'm gonna go flip on the breaker. I'm gonna leave these off right here for now because I haven't made the final connections. I'll go ahead and finish everything off camera and I'll show you guys the final results and how everything's working. So here's where all the wires coming up from the panel. You can see the armor flex there. The orange wire is the feed from the main. The yellow and white are my two 120 circuits, the 20 amp and the 15 amp. So I made a junction box to feed the outdoor outlet, and then I ran it all the way down to the other end to feed my outlets on that end. So on this side, I've got it split at the junction box right there with my 20 amp circuit. The 2 outlets I have over here near the compressor, and then the other side under my tires. I just used the metal junction box here with some strain reliefs, and then you can see all that expanding foam doing its job up there. Everything's wired up, professionally looking. You would never know that this is a DIY job. So for the cover, you gotta break off the panels that you're gonna use. Since this is an 8 and we're only using 4 of the 8, we have to break out the 4. These are all halves, so you have to do 2 for each one full-size breaker. So I just put the cover on. One of the things I noticed is this is an 8 position panel, but it's actually sold as a 612 right here, and they say don't use those last 2, but the bus is actually there. The only thing that they did was on the plastic molding, they put a little nub where you can't put a breaker in, which is like stupid as hell. So they charge more for the 816, like twice as much as this, but it's the same box they use the whole time, and the same bus is just a different plastic end. One of those dumb things that they do to make money off the same molding. Hey guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video. As you can see, adding these outlets in the sub panel is pretty straightforward if you're comfortable with electricity. I went from 1 outlet on the wall and 2 on the ceiling to like 19 now in my freaking garage from all these different projects I've been doing. If you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to stay on top of all my different DIY videos. Remember, for all these projects, whether it's for the car, for the house, or for the garage, if I can do it, you guys can do it too. This is why I make these videos, to give you guys some confidence and some information. I want to thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll talk to you guys next time.